Lawmakers from across New Mexico are in Santa Fe this week for the 2017 legislative session. We can expect some big debates this year over the budget, certainly, education, of course, public safety, and other key issues. Now, the session opened with Governor Martinez's State of the State address. Let's hear a bit of her address now.
We all know the cause of the crisis. We've been at the mercy of the federal government and an unpredictable oil and gas market. We're very proud of our labs and bases and our energy production, but we have been among the top 5 most dependent states on the federal government. Oil and gas revenues make up 1/3 of our budget. It's been this way for decades upon decades, and we won't change it overnight. But we must continue diversifying our economy and restraining the size of government. When sequestration hit, we got an up-close look at what can happen when we're too reliant on federal government spending. And now we're seeing it with oil and gas. Oil prices dropped 71%. That hit us hard. In our highest energy-producing counties, gross receipts tax revenue plummeted. At the same time, GRT rose in every other county. We lost over 11,000 oil and gas jobs. Despite those losses, we added 30,000 private sector jobs. That's a direct result of choosing reforms. Jobs in manufacturing, high tech, finance, tourism. Make no mistake about it, we are diversifying our economy and laying a strong foundation for private sector growth.
And let's now talk about the priorities Governor Martinez outlined in her State of the State. I'm joined this week by Merritt Allen from Vox Optima LLC. Former State Representative Janice Arnold-Jones is with us. Former State Senator Dee Dee Feldman is with us. And regular Sophie Martin, an attorney and editor of DukeCityFix.com. Janice, starting with you, and I want to get this from everybody at the table. Tone, temperament, all that kind of thing, the broad strokes of the speech. How did you come away from it?
That was a terrible speech.
Why so?
And the reason I think whoever wrote the speech needs to be fired, because there was real meat in there, but it was so poorly crafted that the message didn't get out. I thought that was very sad.
Interesting.
Very sad. Now, was there a broad plan for the state that was clearly outlined? No, there was not. And I just think that is just a very sad opportunity to have missed.
Sophie Martin, what do you think in the overall?
My sense from both watching and reading it is that there were too many sort of like the things that Governor Martinez pointed out as triumphs over the last year. Too many of them, when you pick apart what she's saying, you could dig a little deeper, not really a triumph. So, I mean, for instance, yes, it's lovely that Facebook has made its commitment to New Mexico, but we're not talking about very many jobs. And so to talk about that as a jobs triumph sort of begs the question, fewer than 50, is that right? Yeah. So that's how we're gauging success, is less than 100 at a time, less than 50 at a time. You know, the much touted over the past week increase in the graduation rate. If you go to DukeCityFix.com, you'll see Scott Key has written a great piece sort of taking apart those numbers and showing how it's not really the accomplishment that the Martinez administration has tried to paint it. And it's unfortunate, you know, to go into this legislative session in which Governor Martinez has essentially the same priorities she's had the whole time. She's continuing to say, I'm not gonna look at a single tax cut. It's really hard to stand up there and say, what a wonderful bipartisan achievement we've seen here, when you are not acting in a bipartisan way. And the spinning that you're doing on the data that you're putting forward is also not particularly balanced or bipartisan.
Merritt Allen, your thoughts, what did you think?
Well, I think Sophie and Janice both make good points. I found it completely unsurprising. I don't think this administration puts a lot of priority on communication. I think we've seen that. The relationship with the media is not there. It's very much a matter of controlling the narrative. So from that perspective, I was surprised by nothing that came up. She's a career prosecutor, so there's crime, there's children. I found the transparency discussion interesting given some of the bills, but also given really the relative opacity of her administration with regard to media outreach.
Right.
So it seems like transparency is fine for the legislature, but not for the executive branch.
Good point there.
Yeah. I'm just sick of these opening day speeches. They're so entirely predictable. And you know, you have the victims of terrible crimes or DWI, and then you have the business people or the victors, as I call them, in the attention game, showcased, mainly for TV. I think it's mainly for TV. One thing this year, at least I will say, that she did not, as every governor says, the state of the state is great and thriving. At least she didn't say that this year, which was noted by Senator Joseph Cervantes, who gave the Democratic response. And you really can't say that when you have a state where 27,000 people have left in the past year to find a job. That doesn't sound like it's a balance to the 50 jobs that Facebook has created, as she touted. So I'm just tired of it. And
I like that tone.
I can tell.
Right. You're not getting around with it. But you know, no one seems to remember these speeches come March. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. But one thing, Janice Arnold-Jones, that was interesting we picked up on Tuesday was the bipartisan tone that was struck. Sophie mentioned it a minute ago, that the governor was, did you sense a reaching out across the aisle, or was there something else going on here?
You know what? That one left me flat because the governor is not known for actually meeting with the legislators, and you know, you actually have to have a conversation, and I don't care which party you're in, those conversations aren't happening. So it was nice to say that, but you know, I kind of just thought, well, okay, so is anything really going to happen?
It feels like when she says bipartisan, she means I got what I wanted.
But no, I think it's predictable if you are on the losing end of an election to want to emphasize bipartisan cooperation because your side lost, and that's your only hope.
That's all she's got.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
I'm saying, but you know, I mean, so really good legislation and really good leaders, whether you are in the minority or the majority, find a way through bipartisan efforts to actually get what you need, and everybody wins. And when I say bipartisan, that's what I was looking for, but I didn't hear that.
Do we think
I didn't hear that.
is bipartisanship, as we discussed it, is it continuing to suffer from the fact that we don't have monies that legislators can earmark and say, you know, listen, I'll put some money towards your bridge if you'll help me with this bill that I'm doing over here? I mean, there was some concern that that would kind of cut down on some of the deal making that helps to
Grease the
grease
skids.
skids. Yes, that's right.
Interesting.
I don't
Marilyn,
think
let me
there's
ask
been
Meredith.
enough money.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, interestingly, you know, these things are all good to say during a State of the State address about bipartisanship, but then the act of legislating comes around and suddenly things go like this. And first off is the death penalty. Certainly no Democrat, you know, love fest there. You know, is she spending her time wisely, I guess is my question. Is the public inclined to go for another death penalty fight and some other things that are out there, or is it just about being a career prosecutor, like you mentioned before?
Well, I believe the folks who are promoting this legislation truly believe in it.
Yeah.
As a conservative and a resident of the state of New Mexico, one, I don't want to give the government the power to kill me. And two, if we can't run a food stamp program, how are we going to administer a death penalty, Cobb?
Fair question. Fair question. You know, Dee, you know, picking up on that too, she also mentioned abuse and neglect of children, and she wants to increase. Now, no one's going to disagree with that. Certainly no one here at this table, not me, not anybody. But at the same time, is this what the public's crying out for right now? Was there enough about the economy in your mind that could it have been a dominant theme that Janice said just wasn't there? Or was it too scattershot?
I agree with it, Janice. It was too scattershot. The problem is the economy, the lack of jobs, the lack of development. She did not focus on that. The Democrats, in their response, that's what they went to, like a laser beam. Right. And they did that even in spite of the deficit. And I think it worked for them.
Yeah.
I see. So it's really sad if you really examine the speech, and let me confess that was what I did in college, and I just loved it.
Right.
But there are opportunities for leaders to say, "This is where we're going. Come with me, follow me." Right. That's what this opportunity was about. And believe it or not, there was a nugget in here. I can tell that the governor put this in. She wants New Mexico to be the best place for kids to grow up. Mm-hmm. It's in here twice. And all of the other things should have supported those statements. Gotcha. But it didn't happen, which is that it just grieves me because I don't believe that she wants bad things for New Mexico. I think she wants good things. But you have to communicate it. That was very sad.
Point there. Did she communicate her desires on education, Sophie Martin? That was a big part of the speech as well.
God, does she need to after what are we, 6 years? 8
6 years.
We're 6 years in? Oh, it feels like decades. But anyway,
Right.
does she have to? We all know exactly what she wants. She wants the end of third grade promotion, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things I think that's really going to hamper her message no matter what is this. Any new thing that she puts forward is almost by definition going to be an unfunded mandate, because she has made it clear time and time again, there will be no new revenues unless something happens, act of God, et cetera. There will be no new revenues. And so when she says we want to start a program, we want to address the issues with child abuse and neglect, et cetera, where is the money? Where are the people who are going to do it? You cannot continue to cut and hope that just saying, we will do it, will make it happen.
Yeah.
But there was a part in the speech that was just this, and maybe everybody else missed it, but she said, I asked the legislature 4 years ago to combine 6 departments, and that was it. Do you remember which department?
I don't have any recollection.
I thought, okay, well, so develop that, and then it was gone.
Right.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Yeah, interesting. I want to stay with you, Janice Arnold-Jones. One of the things I really dig about you is your wordsmithing. You're just like a bug for wordsmithing. And I love the language that politicians use. You kind of clued us in on some phraseology that politicians like to use that you're kind of sick of yourself that needs to go. Tell us about that.
I will tell you what, bold reforms. Okay, and that's applied to education. It's applied to tax reform. Tax reform is another one.
Yeah.
One that just really gets me is job-killing regulation.
Yes.
Okay, I want to tell you what. Under this administration, so let me tell you, I am a wonk. Go read the New Mexico Administrative Code. It is worse. That is where the regulations are. And I think if you are listening to a politician and they say job-killing regulation, don't you dare let them get away with that. Tell me which one and what one you're going to fix. If you do not know what it is, then it's just words.
Right.
And and there are a lot of phrases like this.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's in here. And yes, I do have a real bugaboo about it.
I like that. It's part of the craft of legislating, politicking. The language that you use. But it could be so obscure sometimes, can't it, Didi? It can be difficult.
Oh, deliberately obscure.
Right.
Deliberately. Another phrase that was used in the speech was the one, and it gives people some hope, I think, is that she mentioned closing loopholes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Closing
yes. What loopholes? Which loopholes?
What loopholes would that be? Would that be? Would that include the entire 2013 tax cut that was given and cost $120 million in the name of closing loopholes? Maybe, and maybe that's where we'll find the revenue.
Well, another cliche, Merritt Allen, is belt tightening. It's always about belt tightening.
Yes.
More with less.
Or more with less, belt tightening, all that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now, that said, what's clouding over all of this debate, of course, is our economic situation that we have going on right now. Did you hear anything in this speech that gives you a sense of there's going to be some climb somewhere, we're going to be out of this mess at some point due to some programs, she can't do everything in 2 years, but you know what I'm saying? Did you hear anything that's going to pull us out?
No, I didn't, and I didn't expect to. And I think it's important to note, I think all voters in this country are tired. I think New Mexican voters are tired.
Fair enough.
The lack of dialogue and the one-way communication, the lack of press conferences, the lack of interviews, the lack of two-way communication. Everybody is simply a talking head putting their points out. we don't listen anymore. And I've felt about Congress for years, I feel like you have one job, just pass a budget and everything will get done.
Right.
And that's how I feel like with this legislative session. You know what? You guys have one job, pass a budget, and I don't care about anything else.
Right.
But don't you think that, so there was a piece in the speech about how the budget was so important, and that's why I had a special session. And
But you hijacked the special session for
right, the death penalty.
That's right.
And I was going, wait.
I feel like it's worth pointing out. Merritt has pointed out that she's a conservative, Republican, Democrat. We seem to be agreeing.
ouch, scary.
Agreeing on this issue.
Let's end it on an agreeable note. I love that. When we come back to the line, we'll look at what a repeal of the Affordable Care Act might mean for New Mexico.